Hey everyone, it's Eivind here. Today I am going to do something that I've never done before. I'm going to be watching this red speech that is being called by some with Joe Biden from Philadelphia, I believe, about a week ago. And it's been making its rounds online, so let's find out why. What I've heard is that the optics of this speech turn out to be absolutely terrible for Joe Biden. I've seen, of course, that there are some people who like it, some mainstream media people particularly, that think it was exactly what the United States needed. Let's find out. Now, I've never been to Philadelphia. I don't know Philadelphia, I don't know this building, but I did live for 6 months in the United States back in 2013 and 14. That doesn't make me an expert in America by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly am following what's going on over there very, very intensively. Because the United States really is the canvas or the arena where the dramas of the world are playing out. So now there's an orchestra playing, probably some military orchestra of some kind. And I want to check with you. I'm watching this on the Reuters YouTube channel. And, well, you can see here that the comments are turned off, which is not a good sign. You can also see here that there is a 10-to-1 ratio, 10 times as many dislikes as likes. So clearly this was not a very much liked and beloved speech, so we'll see what's gonna come here. You know, when you have this kind of music from this orchestra here, it's already setting it up in a kind of a cinematic way, which already makes me weary, a bit suspicious. Is it leery that you say? No, weary, leery in English. You know what I mean? I'm a bit suspicious. Am I watching a movie here? Like, this music does something to my emotions. I feel like I'm being recruited. Okay, bravo, bravo. Well played. It's beautiful. It just makes me a little suspicious. I guess we're going into a break time here. Some dude just chilling out on his piano. Some private eye drinking a bourbon in the corner. Having his cigar and talking about his lost love. Yeah. Some kind of film noir vibe here. I think when we can fast forward a little bit. Again with the music, man. Listen to this. This is movie music. This is cinematic music. This is music in the scene in, I don't know, Independence Day, where the president comes out and does a speech about, like, we're going to stand up for humanity and conquer the enemy and live in freedom. It's that kind of feeling. Biden taking his good time getting dressed in the back. We're already 8 minutes into this. I hear some God Save the Queen tones to this music. Sounds British, or... That's a bit confusing. Let's move on here. Okay, rousing music, like rah rah rah, and some crescendo. I must be coming out of those doors pretty soon. Now there was a time when I would be won over by this, with the pomp and the grandeur. That was a time that I respected politicians, and I don't anymore. I just don't. And I don't feel sorry for it. I don't care what side of the political aisle they're on. The only thing I care about is, does this person speak the truth? If they don't, I don't respect them, of course. Okay. Bravo! Bravo! I think that must be the last one, yeah? Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about this one. All is not well in the nation of the United States of America. And I have been watching this man, this president, just crumble, becoming increasingly incoherent in his speech, increasingly stiff in his walk, increasingly clumsy in every kind of way, and it doesn't seem well. He seems quite senile, and he's done that from the very start. And only lately have people actually started talking about it. So, okay, here. The door's opening, guys. It's church bell, or is it a town hall or something? I don't know what. Okay, those must be Marines coming out. I don't know why they're here. There's some sort of bulletproof glass that I can see here.
Please welcome the President of the United States and Dr. Jill
Welcome.
Biden.
Welcome the President and Dr. Jill Biden. Let's see. Here we are. President Joe Biden. He looks a bit anxious, like he's scared. But I'll guess he'll throw it off and show up as the president. Let's see.
My fellow Americans, please,
I'm not one of them.
Have a seat. Take it. I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America. Independence Hall in Philadelphia,
Independence
Pennsylvania.
Hall.
This is where America made its Declaration of Independence
Ah.
to the world more than 2
I
centuries
didn't know that.
ago.
I didn't know
With
that.
an idea unique among nations, that in America,
So you're the
we're
avatar of
all
freedom and
created
independence,
equal.
I guess, then.
this is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With
Fair.
3 simple words: we the people. We the people. These 2 documents and the ideas they embody,
Stop
upon which
playing
this
there for a
nation
moment.
is built.
We the people.
They're
It's
how
interesting
we
that it talks
became
about we the
the
people, given
greatest
that
nation on earth
the dislike to like
They're
ratio was
why.
10-1.
for more than 2 centuries.
So maybe it's
America
not
has
we.
been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault.
By
We
you.
do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face,
Threats
about
against
the
the
power
Second
we have in
Amendment,
our
the
own
First
hands
Amendment
to meet these threats,
by this administration.
and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it.
You
Let's
haven't
never
done
forget,
anything to create that.
we, the people, are
Nothing.
the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago.
Yeah, but you know one of the people.
We, the
Joe,
people,
it's 10-1
have
dislike to
burning
like.
inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights.
It's not like the United States doesn't have history
That
to be proud
sacred
of.
flame still burns. Now in
Question
our
is,
time, as
Is
we
this
build
man
an
a
America
good
that is more
representative
prosperous,
of it?
free and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first,
Somebody wrote that for
we
you,
must
Joe.
be honest with each other and with
I did.
ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
Represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans.
I think you're talking
But there's
about
no
the Bushes
question
and the Cheneys.
That the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things. But I'm in.
Just for a moment, like, what he's saying there, he's talking about Republicans that he can work with, and we all know what that means now. It means neoconservatives, the Cheneys, the Bushes, the various people that tried to convince the world and actually succeeded that Iraq would have weapons of mass destruction, invaded, leveraged NATO forces, bombed that country to the dogs, killed hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of children were slaughtered, but it's a lot. And so these are the hawkish warmongers that lie to the public and that installed the Patriot Act, temporary safety measure back then, and is of course still with the Americans to this day. So I'm like, you're talking about these people, these mass murderers, child murderers, these liars, these people that have been pushing more and more control, authoritarian control. You're talking about those Republicans as your friends, and everyone else is extremists. I think that's a little bit Suspicious.
An American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of
Red
all
and blue
America.
behind him.
And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful.
I'm glad you're going to tell the truth.
Here,
Let's
in
hear
my
it.
view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law.
See, already this guy spends, I mean, how far into this speech is he? Like a couple of minutes, and he's already obsessing with Trump. Like, what is it with these people that cannot actually stop obsessing with Trump and the people who vote for him? What is it with these people that don't have any independent policies that actually create a better world and a better country for Americans, but all they do is complain about Trump and MAGA? What is it? What is it?
They do not recognize the will of the people.
Maybe they don't have an independent political
They refuse
foundation.
to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to
No right to privacy. I mean, there's a lot he just said that I have issues with, but this idea of no right to privacy, this administration colludes with the big tech, Silicon Valley corporations to harvest personal information about you that they then use to basically govern you. And so how is this guy going to be some sort of paragon of privacy? Don't get that.
contraception, no right to marry who you love.
Well,
They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the
authoritarian leaders. Okay. Project much. It's yeah. I don't know what to say to that.
flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law.
I take it when he talks about political violence that he talks about January the 6th. I take it that he doesn't include in that rhetoric all of the murders and burning downs of various American cities that happened to push left-leaning policies. It doesn't really seem to be part of the same worldview. Like, one kind of violence is highly acceptable and another part is frowned upon, even though there wasn't really violence per se at the 6th of January. And the only people who died were actually Trump supporters.
To the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th.
There you go. Yeah.
Brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people.
I get that he's worried.
This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why.
So, determined in thwarting the will of the people, just for a moment, can we reflect on the idea that the platform on which he speaks those words is censored, comments are turned off, and the will of the people is 10 times dislike to like ratio.
Respected conservatives, like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig, has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy. But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can, we are not powerless in the face of these threats.
Agreed.
We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it.
I wonder why they're not engaging on the White House YouTube pages.
And folks, it's within our power, it's in our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy. I believe America is at an inflection point, one of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after. And now,
I think he's right about
America
that.
must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future or obsess about the past, to be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness.
How can you... Now, I've heard this kind of talk before, but how can you keep a straight face, talk about the danger of dividing the country, and then demonize half the country while doing so?
MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the...
They throw... Sorry, Biden, that is just pure projection. Chaos was all over the place due to the Democrats fanning the flames of racial riots, and there was an attempt to actually quell the flames of those riots. Even Trump himself, he offered to help with that, but you weren't interested. So I don't think, okay, fair enough that you want to support the rights of these people back in the days with Black Lives Matter and George Floyd protests. I can see that there is definitely a case to be made for them having the right to express themselves. But then to say that somebody else is fanning the flames of chaos, why demonstrate, well, demonstrably, you say in English, you're doing the same thing. Like this is where self-awareness is deeply lacking. Deeply lacking.
Light of truth, but in the shadow of lies. But together we can choose a different path. We can choose a better path forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead.
These are just empty words.
I know this nation. I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history.
Again, I really struggle with this. You know, he talks about the brave Americans. And over the last couple of years, this man and his administration has been doing everything that they can, to demonize people that make sovereign decisions that are at odds with his administration, whether it is about the vaccine or something else. And it seems to me like the greatest courage for Americans over the last 2 years has been wielded by the people that have actually dared to oppose the rule of this guy and his people. So that he is on some level speaking to the courage of the Americans as if he is somebody who supports courageous Americans. It's just highly inappropriate.
This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation.
Actually, this is a stone-faced lie. There is right now you're trying to completely just cancel out the Second Amendment. There's a full attack on the First Amendment happening, and it's just,
That believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it. And this is a nation
let's applaud though.
rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence.
Why then are you currently hiring 87,000 new IRS agents that are going to be armed and are being told in their job description that they may need to use lethal force in their line of duty, essentially indicating that you're going to go to war against the American middle class? How can you say you don't embrace violence?
We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism, liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still, at our core, a democracy. And yet,
only barely at this point.
history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time, we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed. But it's not. We have to defend it,
That's for damn sure.
protect it, stand up for it, each and every one of us. That's why tonight I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology.
So you're going to unite against the second half of the country that you have judged is your enemy. And so you're going to unite across that polarity. Are you summoning people for civil war?
We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else.
Again, this is just so fucking disgusting, and pardon my French. This guy has been totally knee-deep in corruption in China and Ukraine. We have all kinds of evidence from his son's laptop that he's been getting kickbacks from under the table deals in Ukraine, that he's been, like pretty much every other politician in Congress, accumulating his fortune of millions and millions of dollars that they don't get from actually working as politicians, but they get it from all kinds of kickbacks for the kind of legislation that they pass thanks to lobbying from various other corporations. How can you speak? This is going one step too far, Joe Biden, to talk about that, even though this is actually the norm in Congress, to enrich yourself as an American politician at the expense of the American people. This happens on both sides of the political spectrum, but this is the norm. So talking about enriching...
Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans, we must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy. We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Around us, we cannot allow to prevail. We here, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence as an acceptable political tool in this country. It's not.
Who talks about that? Like, really, who talks about that?
It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
So then don't hire those 87,000 IRS agents that you're going to use to go after the
We
middle
saw law
class.
enforcement brutally attacked on January the 6th. We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI agents, just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives from their own fellow citizens. On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory.
Again, he's talking about what he's doing and blaming it on others. Like what you'll find with left-leaning news channels these days is that they're talking a lot about civil war. And it seems like they're actually pushing for it. Right in this speech, Joe Biden is essentially rallying his side of a war to go to attack the other side. So this is the speech of somebody who has violent intent. At least this is what it sounds like to me. It sounds like to me that he's going to attack an enemy and he needs an army to do it with. That is political violence.
It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law.
You're talking about yourself.
We, the people, must say, this is not who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be normalized in this country. It's
Agreed.
Wrong.
It is.
We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now, we can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos. Look, I know politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country. But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election.
It's so
Either
absurd
they win,
to hear
or they
him
were
speak of an ideal for what America should be that he is breaking in the same breath as he is speaking it.
cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not, the will of the American people, be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost. I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look.
I just recommend that you watch 2000 Mules to really understand a little better what happened in the 2020 election.
As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me. Throughout our history, America's often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like you're hearing that bullhorn. I believe we can
Is
and
that a
must
heckler?
do that again. And we are. MAGA Republicans look at Americans.
I think he has a heckler in the audience.
Despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America. An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off.
I so wish I could believe
I hope
these
you
words.
see it as well. Just look around.
I really do wish.
I believe we could lift
I would have
America
loved
from
that.
the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go.
That is legit an insane statement. That is so far beyond what's real that I can't describe it any other way. The level of inflation over there now, due to the incessant money printing and the new Inflation Reduction Act that is obviously going to increase inflation further. It's all like, the game here, I think, is really clear to many of us by now, is that all of the words are used to describe a reality that's exactly the opposite. So if they're fighting if he says fighting for freedom, they're actually pushing a limitation of freedom. If they're fighting for greater financial wealth for Americans, they're actually pushing political measures to take away financial wealth for Americans. And obviously this is exactly what's been happening. People can't buy food, people can't buy gas anymore. Gas is, I don't know, more than twice as expensive as it was when he came into power. We all know these things. These are not news. But to actually have the nerve to talk about these things, to talk about America's economy as if it's prospering under his watch, that's rich, man. That's just really rich.
I believe we could build a better America.
That is,
So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems.
I don't know how much of that money is going to go to infrastructure.
I believe we could make America safer. So we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton.
Okay, so this is where you're for the Constitution, you said earlier, and now you're just dropping into the speech that you're against the Constitution. Basically, that's what you're saying here. Like, the gun safety laws is basically an infringement of the Second Amendment.
I believe we could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act.
Then why did you ban, or why did your people in the CDC, FDA, all of these places, why did you ban safe, effective, and cheap therapeutic treatments for COVID-19? Why?
And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever, ever, ever. The cynics and the critics.
We're the best politicians ever, ever, ever.
There's not a single thing America cannot do. Not a single thing beyond our capacity.
I think that's true, Joe.
It's never easy.
But you need to step out of the way.
But we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come. Look, I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open. Millions of Americans have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and their compensation.
If that's true, I think that's great.
American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America.
No.
No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say. I made a bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is now visible. Light that will guide us forward, not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words.
This is painful.
We're going to create millions of new jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century. Because the world needs us to. That's where we need to focus our energy. Not in the past, not on divisive culture wars, not on the politics of greed.
Come on. Like, maybe this guy is a legit moron, but he just fed the flames of the culture wars throughout this whole speech, and now he's speaking out against it. So you can't have it both ways, unless, of course, you're some disembodied, crazy, progressive person that actually doesn't need for reality and the concepts and frames that you put on it to match, so that you can keep contradicting yourself. You can keep, for instance, saying that you're anti-racist while actually discriminating against all kinds of racial groups. You can do that. You can do that because you have the privilege of being actually inconsistent with yourself. And this is a feature of present-day left-leaning policies. And this guy is a victim of it, really is.
But on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail. They believe America, not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed.
I think what I'm seeing here is, it's actually possible that he means some of this stuff, but I don't think he's written a word of this speech himself. And that basically he's parroting other people's messages, and that he's just a lost old guy that has certain allegiances inside of him, but he doesn't have a clue what's happening inside of his administration. He's just the face of it.
And that is the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are.
In terms of the soul of the nation, in December, I believe it is, Biden's administration is going on, Biden himself is going to pass an executive order, which is laying the groundworks for the introduction of central bank digital currencies that will then be programmable in order to reward behavior in the population that the authorities deem patriotic or wholesome or, somehow helpful. And then they can ban and limit people's ability to purchase, to make financial transactions, to actually participate in society, to travel, so on and so forth. This executive order is designed essentially to introduce a CCP-like America. It's at the early stages now of basically ending the financial system as we know it, because the fiat system is completely breaking apart under the weight of inflation. Now, this is what's actually happening. I don't remember the number of this order. I cannot remember that right now, but it's not so important. If you're interested to know more about the executive order, you can just, I'm sure, type in executive order, Biden, central bank, digital currency, cryptocurrency, whatever, and then you can take it from there yourself.
The soul is what makes us, us. The soul of America is defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect,
dentures
that
were
all
falling out.
deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence. And that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible. Folks,
There's nobody disagreeing with the statement that democracy needs to be
and
defended.
it's up to us. Democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look, our democracy...
Again, like it's just the hypocrisy is just beyond belief. The ability to see each other as, what was it, Americans and not enemies? Who are these MAGA Republicans to you then? Are they not Americans to you? Are they like, they're not human to you? They're not part of the cosmology, you know, the reality orientation that you have? They don't exist. So you don't need to apply that rule to the MAGA Republicans that you're talking about.
Democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there. They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy. But history and common sense...
That's a pretty good statement, actually. I'll give that to him.
Good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from. Does history and common sense tell us an opportunity?
He has a little bit of
liberty, and justice
zest
for
in him
all
still, this
are
guy.
most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. It gives hate no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve. That's who we are. That's what we stand for. That's what we believe.
You know, I like that.
And that's precisely what we're doing.
I like that.
Opening doors, creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning.
That's siren, man.
Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble and whole. And this work is the work of democracy, the work of this generation. It is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need everyone to do their part. So speak up, speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote.
Even if you're dead.
And if we do our duty, in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved that for all its imperfections, America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, that this is who we will be. And that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy. That for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America.
Just not if you disagree with us.
And may God protect all those who stand watch over our democracy. God bless you all. democracy. Thank you.
Democracy. Democracy. The best democracy ever, ever, ever. Yeah. I feel again like I'm watching a movie. This is scripted. This speech is so full of contradictions that if you were going to take on board these things, you would be a cognitive dissonant mess. You have to fracture psychologically to actually believe all of these things that he said. Because we're going to be united, but you're going to attack half of the people of the country. And if you think that's a message of unification, then frankly, there's something not right with how you're perceiving it. So, something is not right with this man. Yeah, well, I guess we're at the end of the journey with this speech. My heart is hurting a little bit from that. Like, professionally, I have been basically paid for almost a decade to spot people's lies and the layers of self-deception and self-sabotage. You know, I've been working with men for a long time, basically to get them to align to truth. And when I see somebody like this, he's no different than all the rest of us. He's corrupt, more corrupt than most of us. But what I see here is just somebody who's so deeply invested in lies that it just hurts. It just hurts to watch it. Because I know the price that a human being and their soul has to pay for being this far out of alignment with reality. So this is me from like the psychospiritual lens that I've been working with a lot when I've been working with men's initiation. But it's at the end of the day, this is an incredibly divisive speech that is on the surface calling for unification, and to have those two together is just untenable. It's ridiculous at every level. And I think the independence of the United States and many of the people on the left are going to move right because of this. Almost every public appearance that Joe Biden has made over the last many weeks and months have had people turn against him. And when I see how terrible the optics are here, it's almost like he's paid by his enemy. That he's a Trojan horse in the Democratic Party that's going to look so bad that he's going to give the whole of the election to the Republicans. He's that terrible, that my mind wanders in that direction. But of course, I don't believe that for a second that that's happening. But it's just like, that's a demonstration of just how ineffective he is at delivering a speech that's going to somehow bring support and votes to the Democratic Party. So this was a tragic performance, really. And I'm just praying for the United States, because with this guy at the helm, with the amount of problems that currently exist, it's going to be a rocky ride. But as Joe Biden himself says, we're going to get through it, and there's going to be a better tomorrow, and we're going to be prospering. But you guys in the United States, I'm with you, man. Take back your democracy, take back your republic. Don't listen to these self-serving authoritarians that speak they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk.